The Canadian oil sands are an unconventional hydrocarbon energy resource located mainly in the province of Alberta. Oil sands are found in three deposits, in the Athabasca, Peace River, and Cold Lake regions. Accounting for all three deposits, an estimated 1.8 trillion barrels of oil might lie under the boreal forest of northern Alberta, although only about 168 billion barrels can be recovered using current technology. Even so, this constitutes the third largest proven oil reserve in the world, after Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. The oil sands could satisfy Canadian energy demand alone for hundreds of years. Oil sand consists of an inner core of minerals surrounded by a layer of water encased in a bitumen film. Of these, only the external bitumen is useful in oil production. The technical challenge faced by the industry is fourfold. First, recover the oil sand from the ground. Second, separate the bitumen from the other elements. Third, convert or upgrade the bitumen to crude oil that is commercially viable. Fourth, deliver the crude to market while minimizing environmental impacts. Two processes for recovering the oil sand are used, depending on the depth of the deposit. For shallow deposits, surface mining is preferred, accounting for 20% of oil production. Surface mining consists of removing the top layer of boreal forest, musket, and overburden, exposing bitumen-laden soils, and leaving behind the characteristic depleted landscape commonly associated with the industry. For deep deposits, in situ or on-site technology is favored, accounting for 80% of oil production. Proponents of the oil sands have lauded the economic benefits associated with the industry, citing positive contributions to GDP, tax income, and job creation that extends beyond Alberta. The oil sand alone contributes 112,000 jobs across Canada, and over the next 25 years, it is expected to contribute over 11 million person-years of employment to Canada and $1.7 trillion to the Canadian economy. As the strength of the Canadian dollar is correlated to the price of oil through the oil sands industry, it has recently been labeled a petrocurrency. The oil sands have also overshadowed other sectors of the economy, such as manufacturing, to become Canada's largest export industry. As early as 2007, revenue generated by oil exports exceeded that of the auto industry by a factor of 2. The apparent success of Canadian exports has prompted supporters of the oil sands to argue for the necessity of opening up Asian markets, where energy demand is soaring. Given Canada's stable democratic government, proponents have also cited the ethical and responsible nature of Canadian oil sands, given that customers do not need to rely on countries with dictatorial regimes or poor human rights records for their oil supply, such as Saudi Arabia. Skeptics claim that the economic benefits of the oil sands are blown out of proportion by self-interested governments and oil companies, and that the environmental and social impact of the oil sands will outweigh any potential economic benefit. Alberta, the focal point of the oil sands industry, has been compared to a petrostate, with the energy sector responsible for a third of its GDP and the provincial government eager to take advantage of its energy boom, often at the expense of the environment. As global demand increases and conventional oil sources begin to decline, as forecast by the IEA, unconventional production is expected to pick up the slack, and production from the Canadian oil sands in particular is predicted to ramp up to 4 or 5 million barrels a day, stressing the necessity of strong environmental regulations. The environmental impact of the oil sands is its most divisive and controversial aspect. Critical environmental issues include the greenhouse gas emissions of the industry, water usage and pollution, and the stripping bare of the land caused by surface mining practices. The technology used to extract bitumen from oil sand requires enormous quantities of water, usually pumped directly from rivers or aquifers, with the total water consumption of the industry rivaling that of entire cities. The amount of water the oil sand plants use is equal to about 40% of Toronto's yearly water consumption. The toxic byproducts of the extraction process, called tailings, are stored in massive ponds, some within meters of major rivers, which represent a significant pollution risk. The tailing ponds are not plastic lined, and industry does not dispute that seepage occurs. Multiple solutions have been proposed to diminish the environmental risk of the oil sands. Carbon capture and storage has been put forward as a method to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by pumping and trapping CO2 in underground reservoirs. Another easy-to-implement solution would be to legally declare large sections of boreal forest as natural preserves free from industrial activity. However, the industry, already burdened with high operating costs, has been slow to implement any environmental protection that might cut into its profits. The provincial and federal governments have been lax on regulation, although this might change given Canada's upcoming federal elections. Policymakers and industry leaders must strike a balance between the economic benefit of the oil sands and the environmental impact. Stopping oil production entirely is politically and economically unfeasible. Yet allowing it to move forward unconstrained by regulations risks offsetting the economic benefits by endangering ecosystems, polluting water sources, and contributing to global warming through greenhouse gas emissions.